All right, man. Peace. So now, there was an issue with this dude, Lavar Ball. This brother Lavar Ball, he made some statements last week that got him in a little bit of trouble. Not too much trouble, but a little bit of trouble. And it was in regards to his son's teammates. He stated something to the effect of the reason why they lost was because they had too many Caucasian players in the starting lineup. So now let's see how TMZ is going to try to spin this issue.
A huge actor rips LeVar Ball for saying white basketball players are inferior to black ones.
And no, LeVar didn't say that. What he said was that they lost because they had three Caucasian starters on the UCLA basketball team. He basically said that the team was too slow. That's what he said. He didn't call them inferior. So that's already the first lie.
And this video is crazy. Welcome to TMZ Sports 7 here with Van and Michael J. Babcock. What's up? First off, LeVar Ball got himself in some hot water when he said, and this is a quote, realistically, you can't win no championship with three white guys because the foot speed is too slow.
Well, in order to disprove what he's saying, if what he's saying is so untrue, you should put up the footage of the last basketball championship team that had three Caucasian starters in the starting lineup. I mean, I can't think of any. You have to go back to probably the Bird McHale Celtics with Danny Ainge start in the starting lineup to think of a starting lineup with three Caucasian guys that won the championship in the pros or college. I remember John Stockton, Jeff Hornacek, and Greg Ostertag. They got to the finals twice and lost to the Bulls, really because the Bulls had superior athleticism and wingspan.
And obviously he's talking about the loss that UCLA suffered at the hands of Kentucky.
His son Lonzo Ball did not play his greatest game, but he's referring to three specific players, three white guys on the team. TJ Leaf, Bryce Alford, and Thomas Welsh. First off, TJ Leaf is going to be a first-round draft pick.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. There hasn't been a great white American basketball player in I don't know how long. I don't remember the last great Caucasian player to come from America to be in the NBA. So, I mean, he'll be right up there with Frank Kaminsky. Well, you know what? Let me not say that. Because the cat that plays out there with Utah is pretty good. And I believe he was an all-star this year. But as far as being dominant, there hasn't been one probably since Larry Bird.
Yeah, he's going to be a pretty high draft pick. Very, very good player.
Yeah, but people are upset about this. Some people are saying if LeVar was white and making those comments about black guys, that he'd be run out of town. Brenda's racist and some of that stuff. And people...
The only people saying that are white trash. White elites don't care about what black men say about race. You know why? Because they know that really the only power that the black man has is to talk. All right? Real racists are in your your Fortune 500 company boardrooms, right? The things that those guys say about so-called black people, they dwarf whatever he's saying. And what he said was not malicious. He was just a little too blunt.
People are very upset about this.
Yeah, I mean, listen, LeVar Ball said a lot of things that are out there, comparing this to some pretty good NBA players.
Right.
But when you bring race into it and you inject that into it, it changes the dynamic a little.
That's right. Well, one of the guys who's very, very, very upset about this is Michael Rappaport, the actor, the director.
The old school wiggle white boy. That's really why he's upset. You want to see racism come out? Reject the so-called wigger, male or female, but especially male. Watch how quick all that racism comes out. And I believe he's a so-called Caucasian Jew as well. All right, those are the worst type of so-called wiggers when they get rejected.
They're a big Hollywood guy. He's also a humongous sports fan, follows basketball, lives, breathes, dies basketball, loves it. He heard what LeVar said.
And he played that role of Remy in Higher Learning a little too well.
And he was not happy about it. Take a look.
LeVar Ball, you just said you can't win an NCAA championship with three white guys.
Well, disprove them. If you're a sports fan, you should name the last NCAA team that won a championship with three Caucasian starters. Say, here's why you're wrong. Right? But a lot of like I said before, in America now, Western culture, people just want to attack you with their emotions. And he's talking all crazy, talking about you, fuck you, and all that other stuff. Say that to the man's face. I guarantee you, your tone would be completely different if you was in LeVar Ball's face.
What's the math on a half white, half black guy?
Now, that's a valid point. LeVar Ball does make a lot of I don't want to say racially inflammatory statements, but he does bring up race a lot. And you know, it's the same thing as I stated in the movie breakdown that I did for Something New. A lot of times, black females, when they get with the white man, they try to act like they still keeping it real by constantly bringing up frivolous racial conversations. LaVar, at the end of the day, the white woman was good enough to lay down with and make 3 sons with. So, you know, you have to kind of chill with some of the racial rhetoric, particularly since the white woman was good enough for you to procreate with. All right, you can still make your statements as long as they're relevant, but you do have to understand that your son does get part of his DNA from the so-called white female. All right, even though by so-called race, he is, you know, the man is of the father's seed. Whatever the father is what the race is, because the word seed means race, and vice versa. The word race means seed. All right, it comes from a Latin word raza. It means seed. All right, whatever your father is what you are. There's no such thing as half and half. But what he says, what Rappaport says, bears credence because at the end of the day, the Caucasian woman was good enough for you to lay down with. All right. So when you lay down with her, were you thinking, well, you know, my sons might not be that quick-footed because I'm laying down with a white woman, right? So-called white woman. You were not thinking that. So, you know, it is what it is.
Every time someone talks about Lavar Ball, they preface it by saying he's a good father. He obviously cares about his kids. Big deal. You're supposed to be a good father.
That's an old Chris Rock joke that he's rehashing. Right now, he's just trying to go ham in the camera. He's like the dude that shadow boxes in front of the mirror and thinks he can fight.
Father, you're supposed to care about his kids. Why are we giving him a participation trophy for that?
We all know why, because he's a so-called black man. That's the elephant in the room. That it's a black man so-called black man who's guiding his sons to hopeful success for them. That's why everybody knows why people are making a big deal out of Lavar Ball.
And if he is such a good father, why is he on other people's kids and his son's teammates publicly? Lavar Ball, hold your head, all right? You're like a bullying soccer mom, and you're going to talk your son down in the NBA draft.
He's not going to talk his son down in the NBA draft. Believe me, anybody who needs a point guard, if he's available, they're going to take Lavar Ball. They're not worried about Lavar Ball.
Which is a first.
Or pardon me, they're going to take Lonzo Ball. They're not worried about Lavar Ball.
First, and Big Baller Brand t-shirts look uncomfortable.
All right, the Big Baller Brand T-shirt shot was pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the whole thing was
What do you think about the rest of what he said? I mean, personally, the line that struck a chord with me was when he says, "Why is he bleeping on other people's kids and his son's teammates publicly?" I thought that was really where
Because, to be honest with you, he was just speaking a hard truth. All right? Look at UCLA's record last year before Lonzo Ball got there. They were terrible. Right? They made one big change. That was getting Lonzo Ball. He took them to the Elite Eight. You know? It's a big difference. It's obvious that he's the only factor that brought them there. Right? Those other Caucasian players, they just were not that good. So obviously he wanted to state the fact of the matter is that they went up against a team that has, you know, almost every blue chip prospect in the country in Kentucky, and they got outran. All right? There's a reason why in the 60s and 70s, college sports and professional sports, they started to heavily recruit the so-called black athlete. I don't know why they're trying to act like what he said is taboo. Ask the average Caucasian recruiter or average Caucasian head coach, where do they go when they want to address certain quote-unquote skills positions in football? Where do they go when they want to recruit for a point guard or a wing player for basketball? They're looking for a so-called black man. They're not looking for a so-called Caucasian. It just is what it is.
That's the thing that bothered me most, that these guys went to battle with Lonzo Ball. They were one of the best teams all year, and then to kind of just crap on them, that's what hurt me most.
No, I have a lot of affinity, a lot of affection for Mr. Ball.
Sure.
There's almost no way for me to defend what he said.
And look at this guy, Rappaport, shaking his head back and forth like a black woman. Now, Michael Rappaport, like I said earlier, is a so-called wigger white boy. He actually was married to a so-called black woman, had kids with her, divorced her, and went back and got a white woman.
His opinions of white or black basketball players is one thing. He's talking about his kids' teammates.
He's not talking about his kids' teammates. He's talking about his kids' former teammates.
LaVar Ball went on the radio and spoke with Tiki Barber and Brandon Tierney, and he actually addressed the people calling him a racist. Here's what he said.
I'm just stating the fact
But how is that?
Like, here's the thing. People keep thinking that I blame the white guys. No, that's not the. Every time we lose, I only blame one person, and that's my son. That's the only way I do it. I don't blame anybody. But I said, and before, prove me wrong.
Well, they're not gonna prove you wrong, bro. They don't. The modern day mass media, they're not worried about facts. They're only worried about our feelings. All of these same people in the mass media that are attacking you right now, they know damn well that if all black athletes decided to no longer attend their alma mater, they would lose their mind. They would say, how are we going to win a championship without black guys on the team?
That you can't win nowadays with 3 white guys on the floor at the same time.
Now, you see, that's why he said nowadays, because he's old enough to remember the old Celtics. So we say, you know what, the old Celtics won back in the mid-'80s, but since then it's been, you've almost had to have almost exclusively all black players in the starting lineup in order to win championships in the pros and in college. All right?
I'm not saying I don't like white people and white people can't win and nothing like that.
You know, there was a story one time Michael Jordan was playing a pickup basketball game in Chicago, and it was a pickup game, and he was playing with regular guys. He threw an outlet pass to a Caucasian guy, and the ball sailed a little too high. The Caucasian guy tried to jump for it, and he couldn't reach it. And Michael Jordan told him, you're probably not dark enough to catch that pass.
I'm just saying, when you have more athleticism on there, it's kind of hard when you don't have the foot speed.
It's just the truth. The Kentucky guys just ran past him.
So look, the fact of the matter is, if he truly believes that black people are superior athletes and have quicker foot speed and all that stuff, he truly believes that.
Yeah, and so do you. So do you. Because if you don't believe that, then what you should do is you should go to the Olympic track and field committee and ask them how come there aren't more Caucasians running the 100-meter, 200-meter, and 400-meter races in the Olympics. Ask them that. You should go to every professional head coach in football and ask them how come there are not more Caucasian receivers on the outside or outside the hash marks. You believe that, not just him. But, this guy on the top left, he's a so-called Caucasian Jew. He's going to say whatever he needs to say based on the moment. But he believes that he already knows the Caucasian Jews are the ones who were the most involved with recruiting the so-called black man into professional sports. All right? Other than Branch Rickey, who I believe was a so-called Irishman. But he might be a Jew behind the scenes anyway. Who knows? All right? But the so-called Caucasian Jews, they were the ones who ran the NAACP. And a lot of these reformist super liberal / quote unquote communist organizations that recruited the black man into integrating society and sports in general. So he already knows what the deal is. They know, all 3 of them know that you need the so-called black athlete to be victorious specifically in sports like basketball and football and track and field. What they call quote unquote fast twitch muscles or fast twitch athletes. Right, and if soccer was a sport that most black males were raised playing, they would dominate soccer also, because soccer is a fast twitch sport. It's just a fact.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if he truly believes that he should be able to say it. But what I'm saying is, specifically when you come out on a team, when your son's part of the team, these guys are friends, and then not only that.
So you're saying be racist in private?
No, I'm not saying that.
Nothing that he said was racist. The so-called white man is funny.
The idea itself isn't that racist to me, but point.
You see, that's why Van said that. He snuck that in. He said the idea itself isn't that racist. You know why? The reason why he said that was because really what he's saying is that what he said is true. What he said is true. It's just not probably the best thing to say. There's a better way to say it. He could have just said, we were lacking in foot speed. We couldn't match up with Kentucky's foot speed. Right? There's a certain way that the Caucasian puts it when he says we need more black athletes on the team. They'll say, we're not as explosive as we need to be. We didn't have as much foot quickness as we needed.
Pointing it directly at the teammates is definitely wrong.
If he was white and Michael Richards, this would be bad.
If he was white and Michael Richards, he'd have tens of millions of dollars in the bank. You guys would put him through a so-called racial ritual, and then in about 5 or 6 months, it will be back like nothing happened. Michael Richards is still receiving residual checks from Seinfeld. He's probably worth tens of millions of dollars. He just slipped out of the matrix and called a man in the crowd a nigger. But that shows you how much hatred he had from the start. All right, and if he feels that way, How does Jerry Seinfeld feel about so-called black people? Jerry Seinfeld worked with him for how many years? You mean to tell me he didn't know he was like that?
Sure, but that's okay. It's called an acceptable double standard.
But anyway, it's just funny. Lavar, he should be a little bit more cognizant. I'm not saying for him to watch his mouth. You know, he can speak however he wants to speak, but he should just be a little bit more cognizant about how he presents himself, because he is trying to graft his son into that world. And when you graft your children, when you decide that you want your children to partake in the entertainment industry, there are rules and regulations to how you present yourself, especially in today's day and age of quote unquote political correctness. All right, just something for him to think about. Anyway, peace.